So, uh, deviate septum and all, just,
I'm getting,
after,
check this out, Kurt. I just found something out.
was
I
that?
was having, remember I was telling you, I don't know if I told you, I'd had like sleep issues. I got my CPAP. I went to, while I was sick, something good came out of it. I went to an ear, nose, throat specialist because this was just like real bad. And they checked out my nose and I got the deviated septum, but it's so bad. I literally don't breathe out on one side of my nose ever, like ever. Because they said it's 95%. The guy's like, if I do this surgery, you probably won't need a CPAP anymore, and it very well could drop your blood pressure. That's how bad that shit was.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can
So
still,
I think
I,
like all throughout my life, like whenever I get like anything like infections, they would last and last and last. I think that's why.
okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I can still breathe out of both nostrils. It's just they do get congested from time to time.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but,
Do
well,
you
I
do you
was,
need a do you need a CPAP? How do you sleep?
I mean, it's not as bad. I can still sleep. It's
Yeah.
just like my nose just gets stuffy here and there,
Okay.
and I have nasal spray for it. It allows me
Okay.
to be
Well, there you
able
go.
to sleep.
That's good.
So, and it's not, and like I said, and granted, it happened when I got hit in the nose, so it's like,
Right.
um, I can still breathe out of it. It's just, like right now during this time of the year, it's fine until it gets stuffy, and then I hit the nasal spray and it
Yeah.
clears
Yeah.
up. But then during the
Yeah.
winter months, where it's more likely to be more stuffy because of the cold weather, well, it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah. We all have our shit we deal with. Let's keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right.
So, how was training today?
You're gonna crack up. So because we talked about this before,
Okay.
how you need to deload sometimes, and how I really am. I know it. I know in my heart. I know it in my brain, and I know it. But I'm telling you, my
You didn't
problem
do
is
it.
I kind of did. I need some credit because I was thinking about you. I was like, if I tell him I 100% didn't deload, he's gonna catch me with some shit. So I kind of did. What I did was I forced myself to put anything that was more of compound movement. So today I trained like shoulders, not a tough workout. Shoulders, tries. What else did I hit? The calves. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
what I did with my shoulders was I started off rear delts, I went side delts, and then I finished off with a machine press. So, by the time you've already done everything and then you leave your machine press, your any kind of OHP, your dumbbells, your barbells to the end, it's not going to hit the CNS the same because you don't use the same weight. You know that. And so that was kind of how I deloaded today. So I'm proud of myself. I did something, right?
Well,
But I still did the stack for like 15 reps, like 5 times.
well, I mean, you did. You mean you've done what I would have done, because that's what I've
Yeah.
been doing with my shoulder and bicep days. Is that I put the standing militaries at the end.
Right.
Before I do, my one bicep exercise, but at the end of shoulders, I do the same thing.
Yeah. I
But
really do think that's going to keep your shoulders in a good place for a long time. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
There's
Yeah.
there was something else though that you brought up, not deloading like you're supposed to. I
Right.
did the same thing.
But see, Kurt, and now this is where I know some of our listeners will understand how this is. The guys who hate rest days, the guys who you're a little sick and you should pull back, but you won't. So I think this is where it's incredibly personal, right? Like the
Yes,
way I deload needs to be different than the way another person deloads. We
I
can
agree.
all sit there and give that guru comment of this is exactly how to do a deload. Do you know
It
what I'm
doesn't
saying?
work for everybody.
No, right. And so, my version, you found your version. Like for my version, I found it nerfing my strongest lifts with isolation work allows me to back off with
Yes.
intensity on the things that would put me back in a rut with recovery.
Well, with here's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
I sat down and I thought to myself that, I've been, pretty much hitting it heavy every week,
I
you
was
know.
gonna say every time I look at one of your uploads, I'm like, where's the back down? Where's the deload? It's just
Here's where
up and up
here's
and up.
and again, I was thinking to myself, especially when weeks and weeks of doing pelly rows over 400 pounds every week.
Yeah, man, that is
I
hitting your CNS.
Yeah, and was I knew I was going to come to a point where I was going to have to, do what I did, like take a break take a break from them for a while, and then bring them back in. But I
Yeah,
didn't want to do that, So
because you liked how things were moving for you.
yes,
Right.
so I came up with an idea that I have been trying for the last
Hit me.
3 weeks, and the best part about it is that, and I want you to understand. I think you probably understand where this is originating from. Uh, you train every body part. Get every body part. Gets. You get to train every body part heavy
Uh huh.
once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, so let me break this down. And this is an example. So this past Sunday was more my rep day,
Yeah.
right? My problem that I kept having was that I would hit heavy legs, and then the next day I would hit heavy back.
Right. That's yeah.
So my back day would always take a hit because even though I'm not working on Sunday, I can rest the rest of the day and everything. Granted, for a while that worked. I mean, I can take a whole
But
rest of the day to rest up and then go,
yeah.
still go to work and and I'll be okay by tomorrow night. But
And I know
because
your answer. I'm going to ask you something real quick, but I know your answer already. It would have worked for you when you weren't the strength level you're at now.
that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
But because of that,
The
I
rules
have
change.
to I have to change things again.
Yeah.
And so this Sunday was a rep day. So this week's back day was heavy.
Yeah.
Last week's was heavy leg day. Last week's back day was rep day. You see where I'm going with
I
this?
love it. It makes perfect sense.
And this
Because
way,
here's the thing. Here's why that works. I mean, for me personally, why that would work.
okay.
It works obviously from the way you've loaded and deloaded it, but for just the sheer like I would do it, I would be able to have the rep day looking forward to knowing next week I get to push.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
And so this week, like you say, like you were talking about putting, the heavy presses at the end.
Yeah.
Well, this week I didn't do any heavy presses at all. I just spam laterals.
Hmm.
So next week I'll be able to bring back in the presses at the end. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a brilliant approach. And I think that's where again it comes down to not just looking at like my week, it comes of looking up at the goal, taking a zoom out, looking a little bit down the road, and knowing that over time that's going to take you further for sure.
Yes.
For
Yes.
sure.
And
And it gets back to Kurt when we had the conversation about some of the mistakes I made early on when I was like purely powerlifting, where I never backed off on a weekly deload or I'm on a deadlift, right?
right.
So, I was able to basically keep the volume, keep the percentages high for the bench because I'm built for it, right? It doesn't hit me as hard as something like a deadlift. And so that would have made such a big difference if I would have done something like deadload every other week or even every third week, I think.
Okay, so the idea is this when I sat and thought about this, do you remember me telling you years ago when my deadlift first started going up, how I was
Yeah.
deadlifting heavy every week, and then I
Yeah.
had to start deadlifting every 2 weeks, and
Yep.
then I had to go deadlift every 3 weeks. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about when I say deadlift, for anyone who's listening, I'm talking about heavy deadlifts.
Right.
And then
And these
eventually,
are like comp spec deads.
Right.
floor,
And it
no
got to,
BS.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it got to a point where I was deadlifting heavy every month
Yeah.
because the reason why I kept changing to that point because that's why my deadlift kept going up. The
Yes.
idea that this came from was actually from Westside Barbell, the conjugate method.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where this idea came from.
And Kurt, I think for me, I was never, let's say, purely a power lifter, right? Like I got good at it, and I ran a lot of different programs that were effective for me. But I always was marrying. My goal was I was kind of trying to do my own thing in a way by marrying powerlifting with bodybuilding. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
And so I think,
that's what I
yeah,
did. That's
yeah,
what I
exactly,
did.
right. But that, and I'm glad that we've had these conversations. Is where hindsight's 2020. I look back and I'm like, yeah, I know for a fact had I pulled back on that deadlift, that was the main thing because I found, and this took time. I wouldn't have known this, 10, 15 years in. I didn't know this until maybe 20 years in, that the way my body responds to volume is very different than a lot of people. You know
Yes.
what I mean? I found that I can crank the volume to the max. I mean, when I was at my strongest with my bench and around a 5, 10, 15, 20, and that was basically 3 weeks of pretty heavy benching, or 3 bench sessions with a good amount of pressing volume that
Mhm.
never got pulled back over like months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people, they wouldn't have that. You know what I mean? They would definitely need to back down. But for me, and this is the other thing I think you would agree with, Kurt, and this is a fun conversation. You can and we're talking about this right now, like you can deload certain parts or certain things. You don't need to deload everything. And I think that's where people screw up when they talk about deloads. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
What I'm suggesting is kind of, you know, working in the concept of a deload
Yeah.
within when you have those rep weeks,
Bingo.
because here's the thing. You have your main lifts, you have your main lifts that, you train heavy,
Right.
once every 2 weeks. But that also doesn't mean that you can't go hard on the accessory stuff too.
Right.
And that's what I did when I was doing that whole deadlift thing. I was still working my accessories to the max. Okay.
So, yeah. And I think, you'll agree with this. There needs to be, we talk about discipline in bodybuilding and powerlifting in the way we eat, what we eat, and how we train, how intense we are, and everything else. This is another category of discipline is knowing that it's time to do that
Yes.
and actually doing it. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that's like I said, and that's always been my problem is just I know in the back of my head it's like, I know I need to take a deload week. I
Yeah.
know I need to take a deload week.
Yeah.
I believe now doing it this way, I wouldn't have to
Agreed.
because like, I could train, like, heavy squat, heavy leg day once every 2 weeks.
Right.
While on the opposite end of those weeks, I'm doing, doing high rep stuff, high volume
Right.
stuff, you know. So you know, I came up with this because again, I kept having issues with the back and leg day being stacked together like they were.
Yeah.
And it was like I can only do one of the two heavy every week. And so
Yeah.
I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. And, that's the reason why I was able to climb back on to doing peg leg deadlifts back in the mid fours.
Right. Right.
It was like, I had a little time off where in those weeks I was doing the chest supported row instead of the peg rows on those rep weeks.
I gotta ask you something. Like I'm really curious about this. I remember a period where I would go on YouTube and a lot of the big powerlifters and even some bodybuilders I would see at the time. I don't know. We're going back maybe early 2000s or late 90s in that range, maybe.
Hmm.
And like your Pete Rubishes and I could name a few bodybuilders, but you would see a lot more pendulum rows.
Hmm.
I don't see them much now. Do you?
Well, no, I actually don't. And I would say I do them, and a buddy of mine's that lives here in Tennessee, Matt Miles,
Yeah.
he does them. and he's been doing them for probably about as long as I have, if not longer.
Yeah.
And between the two of us, I'm pretty sure he would agree he didn't see anybody else doing paleo rows. I just had a friend of mine's out in North Carolina who saw me do a video, saw me saw my video of me doing paleo rows a while back, and
Yeah.
decided to give it a go. And we were talking about it a few days ago about how he said that, he said doing barbell rows to him felt more uncomfortable, but doing the
Yeah.
Pele rows more seemed more to his liking.
So,
And
yeah, I
and
really
I
think a lot of it is also the level with which you're at in your training and your knowledge of what, you know what I mean? Like your body. How aware are you? Because like you're talking about with having the back off week with the deadlift, etc. I mean, I feel that that pendule row factors in so much with that, right? Like a pendule row to me is almost on the same plateau as something like the deadlift in terms of what it's going to need as far as smart volume. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. And I agree, and that's the reason why, like, and even Matt does it. I mean, he'll do Pele rows. I think once, like once, week and a half apart.
Yeah,
And he kind of has to spar that with the deadlift too. I think he might rotate. He think he rotates out with deadlift and Pele rows.
yeah,
But like, yeah, I mean, he was talking about how doing Pele rows. He said that he can actually feel like he can, push his back a little further versus doing the barbell row.
right.
So that was just his opinion on it. He said he liked them. He said
Yeah.
he
I'm the kind of person where I'm really thinking I might want to get them back in the routine because I did when I was making some of my biggest strength progressions, and if I'm being honest, a period where I probably put on, size one of the at the quickest rate. Those were in the program. And I think where I got away from them was like we were mentioning in like our previous discussion about not backing off enough in terms of having that like rep week versus well, we're pushing the load a bit this week, etc. That was the one thing I had never really perfected in my training. You know what I mean? Like every other part of me perfected, but though that aspect, the volume with the pendule, the volume with the deadlift, um, that was where I was like. But then our conversation started about, well, wait, every other week or every third week, etc. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
I
it,
I
and you would have known this if we were working together and you were coaching me, where you'd see this. It's like his strength was here a couple years ago, right? That's why that shit was working. But now we've progressed it to here. He's got to take more time away from those lifts.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about a version of me that was doing 675 on deadlift for a single with a belt and straps to
yeah,
now
yeah.
doing 700 with no belt, no
Right.
straps, and double hook grip. I mean, I'm using the mixed grip.
It's nuts.
So of course my strength had progressed greatly to that point,
Yeah.
and it makes sense. And
Dude,
that is
I think
why, and that,
yeah,
and that is why Westside Barbell put out some of the best lifters, because
yeah,
it was how they methodically trained every, and granted, it was how they trained because they would pick a movement and they would stick with it for a set amount of time and then change it out with another movement,
right.
uh things of that nature. And then they would also do, you
I,
know like one, now have that one heavy day and then have
yeah,
that one rep day. Now, the way I'm talking about, believe it or not, was brought up a long time ago. I say long time ago, I'm talking like 2014.
hmm,
I want to say that because that was it. Okay. It was during a seminar that Matt Jensen had when Dallas McCarver was still around. He was there at that seminar.
Yeah.
And he brought that up, and I think it kind of went over my head back then. But it's funny how I picked it up now, and I was like, "That's what he was talking about." Like he
Yeah.
was talking about shit like that,
Yeah.
and that was also allowing stuff like it was actually, allowing you to be able to push a lot longer,
Right.
you know, and not have to do what we normally do would be like have to take a whole week off.
Right. I gotta say something. I want your thoughts on.
Okay.
I actually heard this on I think it was like the Think Big Bodybuilding podcast. They were having a discussion, and really high level bodybuilder slash coach was talking about what he's seeing in a lot of the competitors today is that they got paper thin skin, but it looks like sausages. There's not that deepness, the detail to the muscle tissue.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, well, I don't believe I know this, and I know you'll
Okay.
probably say something with this too. That comes from the rugged training with the heavy, intensity, undulating period, and that's where density comes from. And that density piece is required that when the paper thin skin happens, that's where you're going to see those, etched in, muscles that are
I agree.
kind of
Uh,
missing from today. Because you look at today, and it's so much machines, it's so much cables, it's so many higher reps, and yes, that can get people big, but it's just different, right? Like there's not that density, there's not that depth in the muscle, it's just not that way. Look at back at Jesus, Ronnie. You
yeah,
remember everything in Ronnie? It was just, man, it was like you could like put your hand into some of the muscle bellies.
I will say this. Number one, um, the density issue, and this this is going to be a hot take for
Let's
sure.
do it.
But um, the density issue is related to one thing, and I mentioned this in the video a while back. I might have sent it to you.
You did. I loved it. I loved it.
Hold it. Okay. The density issue is coming from the fact that guys, I'm talking just guys, are not training their legs hard enough.
Yep.
That is where it's coming from because how you train if you go balls to the fucking wall on leg day, it's kind of hard not to take that intensity over into other lifts, into
Yep.
other sessions.
There it
Okay.
is. There it is.
Okay. And it's kind of hard, and this is another one. It's kind of hard to be intense, to train intense when 99% of your workout is on machines.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. The intensity is in the barbells, is in the dumbbell movements, is in the hard shit that I keep that you
It
we
is.
talk
There
about.
there is a fight that you won't get to experience with the machine that you will experience with the barbell, you
And
know?
I will say this.
And that fight is where you change.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And the examples of this are out there.
Right.
My buddy Pete out of Texas. Uh, he owns the Metroflex in Mansfield, Texas. He's in Vegas right now. Okay. You look at his physique. You look how he trains. Okay. I mean, he was still doing 500 well, 495 five plates on rows for reps
Yeah.
towards the end of his prep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. His physique and him being able to do that makes sense to me because, well, he doesn't spend 99% of the time on machines. James Ferguson up at Washington, he's in Vegas right now. The
Yeah.
same guy I've done videos about this guy. This guy is literally cakewalking 405 on incline for reps, 200s on dumbbell inclines for
I
reps.
gotta yeah. I gotta throw someone I'm gonna throw someone in there, and we gotta have a quick talk about this guy.
Okay.
Joey Quads. Joey Quads.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean, to me, here's what I think is so important that people, if you're listening, you need to think about. He is not currently a competitive bodybuilder. He was at a very high level. Now, he's kind of backed off things a bit, but you look at those freaking quads. Holy Jesus, man. And you know why? It's because you see, if you just made a list of these are the most challenging things you can do on a leg day. It's literally his workout. And then it's
Yeah,
loaded to a degree where you're like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't just, that's
yeah.
not something you see very often.
No,
And so
and you
he
see
fought
there,
that fight.
yeah, and you see his physique. Okay,
Yeah,
these guys, my buddy Billy from Tennessee, he's in Vegas right now. Uh, he was fucking doing, you know, 500 and 400 for reps on bench at about maybe 230 or so.
right.
And he has a complete, again, you look at his physique, muscle belly. These guys have one thing in common, muscle bellies. They have that density. They have that density from doing all the hard shit.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You cannot get there if you're doing all machines. You cannot get nowhere near the
yeah.
get intense enough to have that fight that you were talking about
No,
on
because,
machines.
the machine, I think, removes, you're going to like this one, Kurt. You're going to
Okay.
like this. A little bit of the fear.
Yes.
You
Yes.
need a little bit of fear. It,
Yeah.
it lets you know you're about to change.
Yes.
How
Yes.
you respond to that fear is where you make the change.
And I think and I believe the problem is that people, you know, they don't like that fear. They go to where it's safe. They go to where it's
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah,
And even further,
yeah.
let's go beyond that. Okay, and this has been a topic this week when, the cope with guys saying, guys like us only got this way because of gear and genetics. Well, surprise, surprise, we
I
just
got to say
told you.
something real quick, Kurt. When I broke the bench state record,
Yeah,
I was diagnosed with low testosterone. Low testosterone. Yeah.
I got one more for you.
And that was USAPL. I didn't
Okay.
start fit until I was in my 40s.
Well, I got one more. I got one more for you. Okay. When I benched 405 for reps and I did 705 in a bench shirt, single ply bench shirt, for all y'all who don't know what it is, it's single ply. It's literally like I, yes, yes. Okay. I did those lifts natty.
Yeah.
Okay. I never, and when I did that 705 bench press, I have never won best lifter. I've never won biggest bench in the meet. I did that natty.
Yeah.
Okay. I can tell you now, gear and genetics were irrelevant because it was how I was training.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot, like I was training with North Georgia Barbell. And before that, I was doing a whole lot of West Side stuff. I mean, do the math.
Yeah.
So uh, when and granted, they're out there. Keefe West, you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
He's natty.
Yeah.
Okay. But what does he do? Like, what is his training?
Right.
He's doing deadlifts. He's doing squats. Okay.
Yeah. I think that, um,
And he's natty.
yeah,
But
I had a really in-depth conversation with Ben Pollock, right? When we were working together for the American Pro. We got, and keep in mind, this was when I literally was just getting started with TRT. So he took me to a level where I was at a world level. You know what I mean?
wow.
So we got in the weeds with a lot. You know what I mean? And one of the things we were talking about was realistically, how big of a difference might you see if everything was perfect and you took this person who never touched a PED, no testosterone, exogenous, nothing, and then you gave him the perfect drugs in terms of getting stronger, etc. And he said absolute rare top of the expectation might be 15%. He said more realistic would be less than 10 or around 10.
There's something to add to that too. And when people use the term, people saying, "Oh, this guy got genetics. This guy got genetics." Someone who has genetics, okay, is one of one.
Yeah.
Okay, they're more rare than you realize. Granted, I could say Phil Heath, Arnold, Ronnie.
Uh-huh.
I can't
But
think
now
of
I
anyone
know. I
else.
think I know where this conversation's going, and I'm gonna throw another name in there,
Go ahead.
Flex Wheeler,
Yes, yes.
right? But let's look at what happened in Flex's career. He didn't like to do things to the level
Oh,
a guy like Dorian did.
and yeah, that's true. And I would tell you that Dorian didn't have the best genetics, but he
I
made
would
up
argue
for.
Flex had better
Yeah,
genetics.
that's what I'm
And I
saying.
think Dorian's even said that Flex
Yeah,
had better genetics than him.
yeah, and the fact, but he made up for it with blood and guts training. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I mean, the shit you see in
I
the
don't think there's a harder, more intense thing than how he trained. And Kurt, you're a monster, and I think on a few levels I am as well. And I think I could confidently say, and you probably agree, we can't take things to the level he took them.
Mhm.
Because the other thing I think genetically that was a little bit rare with him, pain tolerance, right?
Yes,
Um, ability to 100% shut off emotion.
yes,
He did not care who saw shit while he was getting ready.
and you know what? I believe that came from years and years of having that fight every time in the gym.
Yeah.
That pain tolerance, that cutting off the emotions,
And I'll say this, and I know you are similar. It's like I can go to that place, but nowhere near as often as someone like Dorian could go to that place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might have a shot at getting there on three, maybe four, more like three exercises in a week,
Yeah. No, I agree.
maybe.
No,
But
I agree. No, I agree. And I'm like Dorian was built different, no
yeah,
question. I mean,
yeah. That's why
he
I named
went
my son after
and
him,
and,
man.
and,
You
and,
better love hard work.
and here's the thing though. The reason why he was able to get to that point was, let's be honest, it was his training environment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
In the
yeah.
damn basement, in the
Oh yeah.
fucking trenches. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There-
Yes,
there-
dude. Your
every
environment is everything. Everything.
every every ounce of his five senses in that gym was probably just telling him it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But in his mind, that's where he needs to be. And
Yeah.
that's what made him different.
Yeah.
That
He
training environment.
wanted. He talked about how it didn't matter if the snow was up to his waist. He was walking through it to get in the doors to that musty gym,
Yep.
that shit lighting gym.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much like a social media gym you'd see today.
You tell me
But
about
then
it.
again, look at the density he had.
I no, I agree. I agree. And that is and it's the same, it's the problem I see here when I live here in Nashville. It's like, and I had this conversation a while back where a buddy of mine was asking me, what happened to all the hardcore gyms that were here. I was like,
Yeah.
well, after 2020, a lot of them shut down and never reopened.
Right.
And then we have this wave of luxury gyms that come in. And to me, it's like, you know, it makes you feel like there's a reason to be comfortable with some of these new gyms now.
Doesn't it give you like a little bit of a warm feeling inside, like
It
when
does.
you see like a rusty steel plate
Yes.
or like a
Yes.
bench that's a little worn out?
I,
You
I
know?
will I will send you this picture, but when I moved to Chattanooga back in 2012, right? And I was going through some things mentally. I mean, I had just moved to this place. I barely knew anybody. And I went through some things, lost some friends, and I needed to kind of just be along with the iron,
Right.
right? And somehow stumbled upon this hole in the wall gym off of Highway 41.
Yeah.
Just across, literally, if you pull out onto Highway 41, if you go left, you're going into East Ridge, Tennessee. If you go right, I'm sorry, if you go right, you're going to East Ridge, Tennessee. If you go left, you're going to Ringo, Georgia.
Huh?
Okay. It's literally on the state line. And I walked into this place and it was exactly what you described. It was just plates, rust, sweat,
Yeah.
the smell of blood and chalk in the air, and
Yeah.
like one wall with a mirror. That's it. Like all the other walls are cement
Yeah.
painted white. Um, and when I walked into this place, I was like, "Yeah,
It's
I need to be here."
business. It's
Yeah,
it's it's yeah, you're here to work.
yeah, I want to be there. And it was like no one. And here's the thing about it: hardly anyone came to this gym.
Yeah.
So 99% of the time, me going to the gym, I was gonna be by myself.
Yeah.
So it taught me to find that fight, because
Yeah.
if I fail on a lift,
Right.
no one's coming to save me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Oh, you're
know,
telling me I know the feeling, brother. I mean, when I was peaked out on my bench, I mean, that all happened late at night in my garage, dimly lit. I might or might not have, my 125-pound wife there to spot me.
so I know you know what I'm talking about.
I needed that kind of a motivation. It's like this is
Yes,
a no fail situation, you
exactly.
know?
See, that's what I'm talking about right there. See,
Yeah.
when we place ourselves in those situations, it's there is no fail.
No. Uh-uh.
Okay, it's like I gotta get this. There is no
Yeah.
fail, and
Yeah.
there's that fight you were talking about where you learn to fight.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful that I found this place that I was able to train there as long as I did. I mean, I'll have to send it to you sometime. I do have the picture, or rather, several pictures of this gym, and
I love to see that.
yeah, I'll send them to you. And like the weights were iron plates. They had the uprights, squatting uprights.
Yeah.
They had an old school power rack. They had a pull. They had the solo black pull down machine. They had
Paint's chipping on everything.
yeah. They had like two very old school inclines, non adjustable.
Couple
They
torque pads here and there.
yeah, yeah. The only thing that was actually technological was the fucking keypad.
You know what's messed up about me? Maybe you as well, Kurt. I'd pay the same damn membership to go to that gym as I would the fancy one around.
I would. No, 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 I would. I mean, I
Yeah,
actually, when I found out about this gym, and this was the best part,
yeah,
it was like, before you even walked in, it said there was like a number on the door, and it was
yeah,
like, if you're interested, give me a call. I'm like, okay. So I gave the guy a call, and I hadn't even seen the inside of the gym yet, and I was like, where do I pay you? And he
yeah,
was like, well, go and try the gym out for the night, and you hit me back and let me know. I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna pay you, but okay. And
yeah,
then about 3 hours later, I'm like, so what do I pay you?
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, I will most. I mean, if this gym was like $80 a
yeah.
month, I would pay for it to go to that gym.
I'm gonna tell you a little history about me. It'll probably make sense to where a lot of like this love for hard work and everything else, and trying to find bigger challenges comes from. You know, wrestling, basically, you're learning to work at a high level in an exhausted state. And so the coaches, when they're doing their job, is to exhaust you before you wrestle, or while you're wrestling, make it even more challenging for you, so that when you get out there and you're fresh, you're at a higher level. So one
Yeah,
of the things that they did constantly is, they would heat the rooms up. I mean, the rooms they must have been, I'm guessing, high 80s, low 90s, and humid. And
wow.
so you are already working nonstop, lungs burning, and now you've got the element of just sweat dripping off of yourself. And that kind of air doesn't feel good to breathe.
No, it
Do you know
doesn't.
what I'm saying?
No, it
And
doesn't.
so but those memories of that situation that I once was afraid of and once thought this is going to hurt me and I can't survive in something like this changed me in a way that I miss it and I would go right back to it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you and me both. Yes, yes.
I fell in love with finding where uh, I could go by not listening to what my mind was telling me about my limits and when I needed to stop.
You're basically trying to find a place to go to find that fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and
And then I mean like that's the thing, like wrestling rewards that. You like you basically are in an arena. You got people all around you, your team, everybody else, okay, and it's like they see you in these hard situations, and if you fight out of them, those are the loudest cheers.
yes,
Loudest cheers aren't the ones that happen when you win at the end. They're the ones where somebody's got the chips down and they look like, oh, they're in a situation impossible and they flip it around. That's where the crowd roars.
yes, yes. I like that. I like how you said that too, because
So when
that's
I do my whole gladiator theme, that's how it felt for me when I was in that place. I didn't care if I got hurt. I didn't care about anything but fighting my way out of hard situations and winning and being the
yes,
guy at the end with the hand and hearing that roar. You know what I'm saying? It's ooh.
and
I would my mom
and,
said this to me. My mom said you will break yourself to win. This is why I can't do a deload.
you and me both, because doing that, we're not doing it for any, we're not doing it for glory. We're not doing it for
The muscles are a byproduct of what I love.
exactly.
This is not the why.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Brother, I gotta run. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. If I
Got a
figure we was,
client coming up.
I figure we was coming on that time, brother. But hey, great talk.
Always. Always. I
Always,
look
bro.
forward to it.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a great week.
All right, you too, brother.